Okay, I'm doing a new video for this Mona Lisa demo. Want to do a narration through it, so then maybe it'll help people kind of follow through. I thought maybe the visual would be enough, but let's give this a go. First thing you want to do is open up Animate, and we're going to start with ActionScript 3.0. And whenever I do some key presses, I've got like a little keyboard here in the lower right. Should be able to kind of see parts of these highlighted. So if I hit the command button, you can see that kind of turning dark gray. So if there's a point where I'm using hotkeys or something, just look for that keyboard. Okay, first thing, I want to import some of our assets. So I want to go to File, Import, Import to Stage. And I'm just going to do the pizza version of this demo, so it'll be kind of the same thing that we did the other day, but it will use those different tweens. Okay. Now I can hold down Shift. I'm going to select multiple pieces of this. I've got the two arms, Mona Lisa, the background, and the pizza. I'm going to press Open. And then this screen pops up. You just import every one of them. And I'm going to zoom out by hitting Command minus. I'm going to click off the screen. Then I'm going to click each object. I'm going to just move it away from the artboard so I can kind of see what's going on. Okay. So I want to change the size of my artboard. The way I do that is first of all, I have to click on nothing. Right now this is highlighted, so I'm going to just click on this background gray. And then I'm going to go to my properties. If you can't find properties, you can click up to Window and then find it right here. Now, whenever you're in the Properties window, you should be able to see this width and height. I'm going to change this to 800 by 1000. So it will be more portrait orientation. And I'm going to start with my background. I've got this selected. I want to rename these too. So this is layer 1. They're all called layer 1, but I want to be able to easily distinguish them. So now that this is selected, I'm going to double click on that, type in background. This one is the left hand. Here's the right hand. Mona Lisa. And the pizza. Okay. Now, as you can see, my objects are really big. I need to resize these. We're going to use the resize tool. This is the free transform tool. If I click that, I'm highlighted on here. I can resize my background. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. That's good. And I've got it kind of on this edge because I plan on having it do a tween. That's going to make it kind of flow across the screen. Right now, in my timeline, I only have one frame for everything, so I'm going to start adding some frames. I'm going to right-click, insert frame. I'm going to do it to about frame 100. You can obviously do more, but it's at least good to work with. Okay. Now I'm going to do my first tween. Whenever I do this, I need to make a keyframe at the very end first. So I'm going to make a keyframe for my background. So you can tell what's a frame and what's a keyframe just by looking at the kind of black dot there. So I've got 2 frames that have the black dots, 2 keyframes. And then I've got like 99 frames in between those. I'm going to start with my tween by right-clicking here on that layer. And I'm going to create a classic tween. And whenever I do that, this bar should turn into sort of a lavender, and it'll have a arrow pointing to the right. And this is the frame that you're going to want to adjust. It's that last keyframe. And you don't want to touch any of the other ones yet, or there's really no reason to. We just want to adjust this one alone. I'm going to move this just over that way. Then whenever I check this out, holding my red slider, I can move it this way. It's doing a nice little pan. Additionally, maybe I want to scale this up a little bit. So I'm going to increase the size of that just a little bit. And in a classic tween, you'll be able to do you can change the movement of it. You can change the rotation of your whatever you're working with, and then you can also change the size of it. So that's working pretty good. Okay, next I want to kind of bring everything back to that frame 1, and I want to arrange some of my other objects on here. So here's the Mona Lisa. I'm going to zoom in, and I can still see my artboard with that kind of black line there. It's a little bit hidden kind of here at the bottom, so I want to make sure that she's on there. I click this little blue color there so I can kind of see through it. I can readjust her. Okay, that looks like a good position. If I wanted to, I can use my arrow keys to kind of make micro adjustments. That's always kind of good for those sort of things. Okay, so I've got her in place. I want to get her arms in place. I need to resize those as well. So I'm going to move these down here. Now here's where I can kind of get in a little bit of trouble, where these are actually behind her, so I need to reorder my layers. I'm going to take the Mona Lisa layer and drag it below there. Now these are on top, but I want to put my left hand above that right hand, so I'm going to move that one above there. Okay, now I want to change the size of these so it's more kind of what she is. Okay. Maybe I want to rotate that a little bit so I can see her hand peeking through there. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. I'm also going to kind of change the size of my timeline here. You get that double-sided arrow. I'm just going to pull that up slightly. Okay, so this is what I have for my animation so far. We haven't done any new keyframes for the Mona Lisa or arms. We haven't done anything with tweens with those yet, but we're about to. The last thing I want to do is place this pizza. I'll probably have to reorder where that's at since it's on top of everything. Still making sure that I'm using my free transform tool. I'm going to size this down. And you might see where this kind of glitches out right there. Don't worry about that. If you zoom in, it'll go back to normal. Just a little artifact within Adobe Animate. Okay. I'm going to rotate that a little bit. And I'm going to place this one behind the left hand so it looks like she's kind of holding on to it. Whoops. If you get in a spot like that where you're accidentally clicking on arms, or pieces that you don't necessarily want to click on right away, and click that lock at the very top. And I'm going to unlock that pizza layer so then I can select it a little bit easier. Okay, so she's holding on to it pretty well. I'm going to unlock everything again by clicking on those. Okay, now it's time to make our final tweens to her hands and then also that pizza. I'm going to start with her hand. I'm going to right click over here, insert a keyframe. And once I have that keyframe, I'm going to right click, just anywhere on this gray frames. I'm going to make a classic tween. That's going to make that kind of lavender arrow. Now this is the end frame that I want to change. So I'm going to rotate this kind of coming up this way. Just going to be getting closer to her face. And I've got a nice little rotation going. If you make your tween before your keyframe and you are rotating things before any of this, then you're going to have problems. So just kind of follow those exact steps and it should be no issue. Okay, next I want to do the pizza. I'm going to right click on this last frame, insert a keyframe, right click on here, create a classic tween, and I click on that last keyframe of the pizza. I'm going to rotate it, and then I'm going to put it where I want to kind of have it end at. I'm going to rotate that kind of near her mouth. Maybe she's kind of like posing with it. Okay. And now I can check out my animation. So she's kind of holding it, bring it to her face. Okay, not bad. Now I want to do a few more things here. Number one, I want to start kind of keyframing parts of my tween here. This is where it kind of can get a little bit more complicated, but it's actually not too bad. First of all, I'm going to lock everything down except for that pizza frame, so then whenever I want to touch it, it won't mess anything else up. And I want to make it where she's not kind of grabbing the middle of it. I want her to kind of touch more of the edge of the crust. So I'm going to click on that frame. I'm going to bring this and kind of rotate it a little bit more how I want it. Maybe put that there. So this is going to change part of my tween. See, at this point where it hits that little keyframe, it adjusts, and then it's kind of changing direction. So if you can kind of go into your tween and make these little micro adjustments, you've got a lot of power to do a lot more with your animation. So I'm just kind of making little micro adjustments. It's really nothing too big. Okay, that's working out pretty well. Okay, so before I move forward, I'm going to save this as it's an animation. Koch _ Zach. Mona Pizza. Probably the 10th time doing this. Press save. Okay. If you want to test your movie, you go up to Control, click Test, and then we'll be able to kind of see how it's going. This is actually a really slow moving thing. So I think I want to reduce the speed of this. I'm holding down Command, I'm grabbing that double arrow, and I'm bringing it to 50. I'm holding that Command, I'm kind of dragging these over. This is actually really good practice to kind of adjust your frames. So I'm just dragging all these to 50, so it's going twice the speed, essentially. Again, I just did that by holding down Command, and you can drag your frames out however far you want, or however far back you want. Okay, now let's test that instead. Okay, it's faster. There's a little weird thing that happens with the pizza there, so I'm going to kind of check my keyframing. Yeah, here's a little awkward, so I'm going to move that down a little bit. And I can literally just follow the trail of this and see wherever that pizza is kind of acting weird and adjust it. I'm going to rotate that just a little bit more. I'm going to bring this up a little bit more. And maybe even adjust that there. Okay. Much better. So that's going pretty fast. I'm going to resave that. And now I want to do this thing where if I go to my control and test, it kind of does the movement and then it just repeats. And I want it to kind of loop forever. So I want to copy all of my frames, and then I'm going to paste them, and then I'm going to reverse them. So then it'll be sort of this endless loop. And then also a little side note, whenever you're testing these things, you might see these white edges. Those don't actually exist, that's just there from the viewer. So don't worry about it. Whenever you export it, you'll just only see what's within that frame. Okay, so here's sort of like the maybe a harder part. I'm going to select all my frames. So I'm going to first click in this upper left area, and then I'm going to hold down shift and then click in this lower right area. Now I don't have all my frames selected yet, just because I was like double clicking. I'm going to click up here again, and then they should all be highlighted. Once you get those highlighted, you want to right click and go to copy frames, and then on this frame right after your last keyframe, I want you to right click and paste frames. And once you do this, you're going to have this repeated thing here. These are the new frames that you just pasted in. But we want to reverse these. So I'm going to hold down shift, and then I'm going to click down this lower right part. And I've got all those selected. I'm going to right click, and there's this option at the bottom that's reverse frames. And once you click that, it's going to just reverse everything, so then it kind of does this seamless back and forth. Now, depending on what you do with your animations, it might not even be necessary or logical that you're going to have them loop forever, but maybe for some of you, you want them to loop. You might not need to even do this step. But anyway, it's there for you just in case. I'm going to go to Control and Test. Now I've got this nice little animation. Now I want to save this first as my FLA file. And then I want to export it as an animated GIF. You can export as videos and movies and all that stuff, but we just want to make our GIF for now. I'm going to click that. Then you should be brought up to this screen. It might take a little while to process. Now this is sort of the important part. Whenever you look at this, there's lots of kind of graininess to it. There's artifacts. Doesn't necessarily look the best. The way to fix that is up here there's these little tabs. Right now it's on optimized. We actually want to put it on original, and it's going to smooth everything else out. So you can see kind of the difference in quality between those two. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And I'm going to click Save. And you know, for some of you, for whatever reason, this is kind of off your screen. So you can alternatively press Enter or Return, and it will kind of bring you to this part. I'm going to click Save. This should save my animated GIF. Okay, so it's done. I'm going to locate it, and I'm going to upload it to our little Dropbox. Okay, there it is. And here's where you have all of your assets. I just want you to use like any or all of these. It doesn't really matter to me. Just nothing outside of those. Okay, you know what? I'll just upload this in the middle here. I'll give you a specific folder though. Okay, so it's almost done uploading, and kind of preview it through here. Double click on that. Okay, not bad. Super professional. Okay, so with yours, again, the idea, just be as creative as possible and have fun with it. Best one gets at least a Frank sticker. And as always, email me if you have any issues. It's usually easiest to just send me your FLA file and I can kind of look at it and see what the issue is. But again, hopefully this helps, and I'll see you next time. Stop.